So do you remember that PlayStation 5 patent that we saw that turns out it's the development kit? It was interesting to see them patent the design and everything of the dev kit, but that does appear to be what we were looking at after a developer from, I believe, Codemasters tweeted out that it was a dev kit, which was an odd thing to do, and then they deleted the tweets and basically stopped doing much on Twitter, as I'm sure they got into quite a bit of trouble. These things are under heavy NDA, and it can basically ruin you if you break that NDA. And well, something interesting has now happened. While we were trying to visualize what the dev kit looked like, right? That was something we were doing. We were trying to look at it and say, okay, what would this really look like? And Let's Go Digital, of course, took the patent and did a rendering and kind of used their idea of what colors it would be and everything. Well, interestingly enough, we may have our first look at an actual picture of the development kit. And this was a bit surprising because it kind of came out of nowhere. And I will stress, I can't 100% guarantee that this is real. This is an actual thing. But if it's not real, the person either did a very good job photoshopping it, they did a very good job creating a rendering and then making it look like a picture was taken, or did a good 3D printing of it. It is very convincing, is what we'll say. This comes to us way of Zone of Tech. They did a full YouTube video on this discovery after they had it emailed to them. And I could see, I guess, some anonymous sources sending stuff out if they are indeed inside of a studio that has some sort of access to these things. Here is the picture of it, and it does have the watermark Zone of Tech. I'll leave a link to their video down below in the description. But we can see several different things here, including numbers going from 0 to 7. This was mentioned by Zone of Tech that it could be something like controllers synced up, or possibly which cores are being used inside while you are running tests or debugging or stuff. But this looks a bit different from the renderings that we had seen previously by Let's Go Digital. It is, of course, silver and black. I don't think this is what the final system is going to look like. I know people keep saying that, or they think that this is a wild looking system. Okay, I don't think this is what they're probably going to come to the table with for like retail for us to buy. It's probably going to be a basic box that we put in our entertainment centers, or just under our monitors or on our desks. It's not going to be something that looks this crazy. Now, I don't think this is on right now. Otherwise, I would have been very curious to see if it like lights up or anything inside. I would say it probably does not, but I guess you never know. Looks like there's the power button there above a couple of USB 3 ports, USB 2.0 port. So it does look like it is just exactly like that patent that we had seen previously. They did blur out a part on the right, which I assume is either a serial number or some kind of identification number, but they did leave prototype 1 not for sale. And I guess prototype 1 is just in general this model overall. I don't think like there's 1 through like 200 or something like that, because that would be pretty obvious. I think this is literally just the first prototype that was sent out, and they'll possibly send out another one as they get closer to launch and with more refined hardware and closer to spec hardware, I'll say, because it will change as they lead up to it. I think Sony is still trying to work out exactly what's going to go into the PlayStation 5 right now, and here's the dev kit for it. So as they go along, they will change things inside. Now, the thing about dev kits is they generally, I'm going to say generally, vary heavily from what their final counterpart is. And here's the thing. The one that seems to be very, very close, and I don't really know why they are doing this. I don't know if it's just easier for them in production. Microsoft seems to be doing that recently with the Xbox One X, where they put like an LCD screen on it, I think, but for the most part, it looked very, very similar. But I can show you some of the dev kits. Let's see, we have the PS4 Pro. You know what a PS4 Pro looks like. Here is a development kit for it. It looks like a little PC, doesn't it? Yeah, it's not as crazy as the one we just saw with all the vents for the PS5 and that V pattern, that Roman numeral obviously for 5, but it still has that PlayStation symbol on the middle there. And development kits don't have to be pretty. They have to be functional. Generally, they have to be able to be like stacked on top of each other a lot of times, and that's why they most of the time turn out looking like this, where they have the vents on the front and the back and everything. And most times they look like little computers or basically servers that you can turn sideways and put in a rack. That's just they're all functional. They're not putting racing stripes or anything on it, which is why it was weird to see how crazy the PlayStation 5 development kit is. And then here is a PlayStation 4 dev kit that apparently a shop managed to get a hold of, and they were putting it in their stores there. And once again, it does look a little funny, but it's not something you're gonna put under your TV. If this leaked out ahead of time, most people, I assume, wouldn't think that that's what the PlayStation 4 was going to look like. But it is interesting. I don't know if this is 100% real or accurate with it, but a lot of things line up with this. It looks exactly like the patent. Someone may have seen the patent though and created it and maybe put it under a desk and thrown some Ethernet cables over there or something. But if somebody made it, good for them, because that looks very, very much like that patent. Now, I did also want to touch on a set of rumors that was coming up, and it is pretty interesting to me because I think it's possibly one of the biggest features that Sony could lean into, mostly to make the transition between the PlayStation 4 and the PlayStation 5 much easier for a lot of people, especially with things like The Last of Us Part 2 coming out in February, and then Ghost of Tsushima maybe over the summer or in the fall or something. And that is backwards compatibility, because we are getting a number of rumors about this. This is from Game Rant, who managed to kind of put it all together for us here, because there are two big pieces of this rumor that are starting to come up. One has to do with a person on a podcast talking about this, a reporter from Vice, and then another one from a Twitter account that seemed to know the Last of Us Part 2 release date. That's where it's all coming from. So let's kind of move down here. And the idea here is that apparently, according to these different sources and rumors, that the PlayStation, there's heavy amounts of hinting that it won't just be compatible with PlayStation 4 games. It will also be compatible with PS1, PS2, and PS3. And that's going to be kind of interesting if that does indeed happen. So what happened here was, furthermore, Vice journalist Patrick Klepek, added fuel to the fire with a comment made on the Waypoint Radio podcast. They said, this is everything I've heard about the PS5. This is going back full 2 years now. So this is a while ago. And I want to come back to that in a second for that timetable there. This is going back 2 full years now. Has been a huge emphasis on history, and that is, it's going to be the sort of thing where it's not just about the future, but also about the past. That means your ability to play lots of those games. Now, the other thing is this Twitter account here, the PSE Rebus, saying, do not dispose of trade or sell your PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3, or PlayStation 4 games. Again, that is the Twitter account that had access or knowledge to for Last of Us Part 2 and its release date. Now, here's the thing about the current state of backwards compatibility, because the PlayStation 4 can actually play some PS2 games. That is a thing. In fact, if you have PlayStation Now, like currently, you can go on there and there is a section for PlayStation 2 games. What a lot of people believe, obviously, when they look at PlayStation Now, is that everything streams. Not everything streams anymore. They did for a while, but now you can download your PS4 games, which is great. Actually, there's a lot of good stuff on there, by the way. If you go in there and look, it's not a bad pickup anymore. I think it's $60 for the year. It's actually all right. It's all right at that price, mostly because you can download. But PS3 games have to be streamed. That's not surprising to a lot of people. They're still trying to work out the backwards compatibility for that locally, but PS2 games can be downloaded and played locally. In fact, if you go into the description for some of the games, like Rogue Galaxy, for example, it talks about how it's been pretty much programmed to run on the PS4 in higher resolution and everything. So they took a PS2 game and they designed it to run specifically on the PlayStation 4. Now, I will say, for all of the games on the PS2, the selection on PlayStation Now is kind of lacking, so there is that. I don't know if I'd sign up just for PS2 games, although games like Rogue Galaxy are very, very good. But PS2, PS1, I'm sure, those are already pretty much conquered. It comes down to PlayStation 3. And the thing about their leadership at this point, which appears to be Jim Ryan right now, is I'm unsure of that, because Jim Ryan does not seem that interested in older legacy hardware and games. He made mention about older PlayStation games and wondering why anyone want to play them. Backwards compatibility, for example, although I think that was more or less Jim Ryan being Jim Ryan when asked about backwards compatibility and how Microsoft was making it work so well. So what I think is a strong possibility right now is that maybe, I'm going to say maybe, Sony has figured out that PlayStation 3 situation, and the move to a Ryzen CPU will help them to emulate the PlayStation 3. We've seen PlayStation 3 emulators already, RCPS3. That's already been able to emulate PlayStation 3 games on computers now. So I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that Sony has figured it out, and maybe the Jaguar processor currently on the PlayStation 4 was holding them back from being able to do PS3 well. So maybe this move will help them, but I do believe that if a person is able to emulate PS3 games, on their own or with a small team and a little bit of funding, then I think Sony should be able to make that happen. We've seen patents, right, that talk about them trying to basically universally be able to emulate different games and things from older systems. So most likely what I think could happen, let's say the PS3 has to be streamed, okay, they'll move that over to the PlayStation Now, that'll just be a thing, all right? But if they can figure it out, maybe you take your disc like a PS1 or a PS2 game or something, or maybe they figure out PS3, pop that in, and then it does verify it much like Microsoft does, and it goes and downloads the game from their PlayStation Store. The one downside to that is it needs to be compatible and probably designed. So there will probably be waves, I would say, of updates or games that have been made compatible. So not everything will be compatible. And most likely that's what's going to happen. And I think that's what a lot of these rumors, if they are correct, are alluding to, is that don't trade in your PlayStation games just yet, because you might be able to pop it into the disc reader and it will then verify that you own it and then go download it, much like Microsoft does now. And that would actually be really, really cool. The one thing they have to do, though, I believe, heavily believe this, is PlayStation 4 has to be pretty much 100% backwards compatible. I think moving from PS4 to PS5 is already going to be a bit more difficult now to convince people to do, especially in the first year, unless the PlayStation 5 launches with some amazing stuff. And it's possible they could, but I'm saying, like, a lot of people are very comfortable. Over 100 million right now are comfortable with their PS4, it seems, or at least to the degree where they're playing some of the really good games coming out and games that are still coming out. So to push them just over the edge on what could be $500 might be a lot easier for them to cope with if they can just put their PS4 game in. But right now we have heavy backwards compatible rumors right now. We have an image of the development kit, supposedly. So interesting stuff on the PS5 with the rumor mill going into next year, where we're going to have a run up to the PS5 and maybe a big blowout reveal in February. But let me know what you guys think about this down below, whether you think that development kit is real and whether you believe the rumors of not only PlayStation 4, but PS1, PS2, and PS3 full Sony history backwards compatible on one system. Would be very impressive. Thanks guys for watching. Make sure you like the video on the way out if you enjoyed it. Dislike it if not. And I'll see you guys next time.